If you are like me and you've invested many years in names, technology names like software as a service companies, you know that it has been a painful day, week, and month with it seems like shares dropping every day. Well, I went through all the software as a service stocks that I follow, some that I own, some that I don't, and I ranked them all in terms of both the strength of their moat, what will happen to them in the age of AI and this SaaS apocalypse, and for their valuation. So, where did your favorite company come up? My name is Brian Stoffel. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll be going through this very list. Now, when we do, I want to point out that I have created 4 buckets for the AI SaaS apocalypse. The first are the fragile, and these are companies that are facing an existential threat to even existing 5 to 10 years from now. After that are the robust. These are companies that should be safe, that could get stronger if they make the right moves in adopting AI, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. Then there's the antifragile. This is a very small select group of companies that I think are almost guaranteed to get stronger because of the chaos that AI is wreaking right now. And finally, I have a fourth category, which is the wild cards, where it is almost impossible for me to know exactly how things will play out. And within each one of these 4 designations, I will also offer up a valuation analysis with a 1 being extremely overvalued, to a 4, which is reasonably valued, and then to a 7, which I think is extremely undervalued. Too pessimistic. That should be enticing for people to buy. So let's go through these companies. The first bucket that we're going to cover are fragile companies. And the first one on the list is Asana. This is a collaboration tool that was born out of a former Facebook employee's in-house project. It is a company that has not seen its stock do well over the years. And I don't think it's that cheap right now, even though it's continued to fall. I give it a fairly valued 4. After that, is another collaboration tool. It's been around much longer. It's been much more successful, is Atlassian. It has really fallen on hard times. I do think that the valuation is attractive right now. If we look at the rest of the companies that I think are fragile, Monday.com, HubSpot, Adobe, I think that they have extremely attractive valuations right now, extremely attractive. But here is the thing that ties these all together. AI is I want to give a shout out too for uncovering alpha. I'll leave a link to an article that I read that kind of helped to prompt some of the thinking for this today. One of the points that was brought up is your SaaS companies can be either deterministic or probabilistic. The idea here is that if it's deterministic, if it's something that has a system of record, it has to be right 100% of the time. And anyone who's used ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude knows that AI is not right 100% of the time. And if it's not, that can be a serious problem. Whereas probabilistic SaaS companies, they don't need to be right 100% of the time. Now, I'm not saying that, say, if you design an email, a marketing email to go out in HubSpot, that you're going to be satisfied if it was 95% good enough, but it's not the end of the world if your first draft of that email wasn't. So I believe that that is something that these 5 SaaS companies share in common. Now, there's probably many others, but these are just the ones that I follow. The one that might be the most controversial is Adobe. The bottom line with Adobe is it still remains to be seen what's going to happen. I can see how it's going to retain the high end of those customers. At the moment of this recording, I actually own some shares of Adobe, in part because that valuation is so attractive. But I got to say, it is definitely facing an existential threat that I perhaps was underestimating. So those are the fragile stocks. Next, let's move on to the wild cards. Now, this is where it's really hard to know what AI will do or if it will do anything. And we'll start out with Zoom. Now, Zoom really hasn't gone anywhere since the pandemic, but even so, its stock has gone up quite a bit because of some investments that it's made, not because of the underlying business that's driven up the valuation. I don't think that Zoom is a pretty good deal right now at this point. So take that for what it's worth. After that is Salesforce. Now, here's the thing about Salesforce that is tough to kind of parse out. On the one hand, the functions that Salesforce does can largely be done by agents, which is why its agents are becoming a larger and larger part of the narrative of what Salesforce is doing. That can be replicated by an LLM or built in house, probably relatively easy, but it's the data that's already in Salesforce that makes it have switching costs, that makes it have a moat. Here's the thing. If you are already in Salesforce, well, then yeah, you're probably going to stay because all of that data is living in Salesforce's silos. But if you're new and growing, and remember, the biggest companies of the 2030s and 2040s probably are just getting started today or haven't even gotten started yet. There's nothing to say that those folks wouldn't go to an AI native provider that might be able to offer something for far cheaper. And oh, yeah, don't forget, they have to transition from a seat-based to a usage-based system as well. That being said, I do think that the valuation is attractive if Salesforce can navigate this. That is also a stock that I own, although I am thinking twice about that. Third is Toast. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, Toast offers software as a service and point of sale solutions for restaurants. It's hard to know how that's going to work out in the real world, but I will say that the payment option is part of it. People are really down on payment processors right now. It has created a favorable valuation as far as Toast is considered. And if you have more industry specific knowledge, maybe it wouldn't be a wild card for you. Maybe you'd have more of an idea of where it's headed, but that's where Toast is. And finally is Duolingo. Now, here's the thing with Duolingo. And by the way, I think Duolingo might be the most bargain basement stock that's out there right now, growing at over 40%, free cash flow margins nearing 40%. And we're talking single digit valuations in terms of the implied growth rate when you do a reverse DCF on it. The thing about Duolingo is this. Can someone create a system on AI to learn a language better? Yes. How many of the potential users out there are actually going to do it as opposed to just paying Duolingo $10 to get all of its pre-programmed information? In that one, like I'm having trouble seeing that gain traction. So I think that Duolingo, it's either headed to zero right now, or I think even if it just survives and does reasonably well, is a pretty good deal, which is why I own shares right now, though I could be wrong. So those are my wild cards. Next, let's move on to the robust companies. Now, these are companies that I think should just be fine because they're more deterministic, they're less probabilistic. They for the most part have the system of record at a company. We're going to start out with ServiceNow. Look, if a company wants to create and integrate its workflows, it uses ServiceNow to do them. AI is used in ServiceNow. It's plugged into ServiceNow in order to do these things. And I actually think that it is a quite favorable valuation at this point, which is why I own shares. The next tranche after that includes Snowflake, Datadog, Shopify, and Viva. Now, let me say this about Snowflake and Datadog. They Snowflake in particular has the data, but the functions that are run on that data, that's a little bit easier to replicate. So I would put it in a similar bucket to Salesforce. However, it is a little bit more specified. Viva, I think, definitely has the system of record for clinical trials, and messing up any one part of that is going to be existential to a life sciences company that's using it. So I don't see that going anywhere. Same thing with Shopify. If you're keeping track of your orders, your fulfillment, your inventory, I don't see that disappearing overnight. I was just on here a couple days ago talking about how I sold Shopify back when it was in the 150 to 160 range, but things are crashing really fast and it's already down about 110. It's at about $110. And so now I actually think I would give it a 5 on valuation. After that, we've got CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity firm, collects a lot of data points. You could say that threat detection itself is pattern recognition, which is probabilistic. The difference is that, say, in writing an email in HubSpot, you're okay with it being 95% good enough. That's not the case with CrowdStrike. It needs to be 100%. Right now, at this point, I think that CrowdStrike is fairly valued. And finally, MongoDB. This is much in the same vein as a Snowflake, where a lot of data is stored. Some of the things that are run on it could be used more. An AI bot could do more of the job. I also think that right now, I don't believe that MongoDB's valuation is all that compelling. Now, of course, that leaves us with who are the anti-fragile players, the ones that are almost guaranteed to get stronger in the face of this wide-scale AI adoption. Well, before I get to that, I want to let you know that I've been tracking my own portfolio since December 2014. You can see it in the green right there, more than 6 bagging since then. That's ahead of both the S&P 500, that's the red line, and the NASDAQ Composite, that's the yellow line. I'm telling you this because I have a program, Stock Investing Mentor, that is designed to teach you how I did this. And it has 3 parts. The first is 1 hour of live weekly sessions where we get together and it's all recorded if you can't make it. And there's one big nugget that you come away from it with. Second, you get full real-time access to my portfolio. So if you're curious, well, which ones of these stocks are you going to buy? Are you going to sell Adobe and Salesforce? That's the second part. Every ad, trim, buy, sell that I make, you get access to a full video explanation for it. And finally, 24/7 access to a private online investing community. If you would like full year-long access to Stock Investing Mentor, the top link in the show notes below will bring you somewhere where you can get a 10% discount on an annual membership, but that runs out at 11:59 p.m. on Friday, February 6th. So there's just 3 companies that I designate as anti-fragile, getting stronger as a result of AI. The first should not be a surprise. It is Palantir. Palantir basically is taking a company, taking all of the different silos that it has and creating a digital twin so that companies can figure out how different pieces play together. It's the only player that's really doing this. And even though I think that the valuation is a 3, which is slightly overvalued right now, that's the best deal that I think that we've seen on it in well over a year. And it's got me considering finally purchasing shares. Second is Axon Enterprise. This is the company behind police taser stun guns and body cameras, but it's all about all the ways that AI can improve the life for first responders. For instance, Draft One can immediately create a first draft of a police incident report so that a police officer can go in and she can make whatever changes need to be made to make sure it's completely accurate, and she's responsible for it. But the time saving, and that's just one example of an AI tool, the time saving that affords a police officer can be a huge difference maker and a huge new revenue stream for the company. And believe it or not, it just keeps on falling and falling and falling. If you do a reverse discounted cash flow analysis on this and you offer up a 30% free cash flow margin, which I don't think is being too aggressive, it looks like a pretty good deal today. And finally, Cloudflare. Look, content delivery is really important, and I do believe that AI is only going to make it more important. The only problem is the market leader, the market understands that, and it is still, in my opinion, a quite expensive stock. That being said, it remains clear to me, at least, that Palantir, Axon, and Cloudflare, the 3 that I think are almost guaranteed to get stronger in the age of AI. But look, that was only about 20 AI companies that I follow. I'm sure that there are tons more that I don't. So let me know where you think I might have been wrong, where you think I might have been right, but which companies I didn't cover and where you think they would be in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you want that year-long membership to Stock Investing Mentor for 10% off, find out what I'm doing in my own portfolio, hit that top link in the show notes below. We'll see you next time. Hopefully the SaaS apocalypse doesn't last all that long. Until then, Brian